Every single year, 10 million people are diagnosed with dementia, except could D pills that you find at your sketchy gas station at midnight on a weekend actually help prevent this and treat it if you have the condition and enhance your cognition if you don't? It appears to be so because this has a wealth of research. One of those things where it's an increase of the B word, blood flow. As they always say, the presence of oxygen is the absence of disease. And it's a weird thing to claim to the average person that something like Cialis or Viagra not just help your bedroom experience, but help your brain function. And it really can. I was surprised at first too. I started to investigate it more and more. I just found more research, more antidotes, and I eventually was tempted to try it. And I did, and I was like, okay, there's definitely something here. Like, this is definitely effective. It's one of those things, like, if you wanna think hard, stay hard, right? The reason that it does do this is because it inhibits PDE5, which impacts cGMP, which affects nitric oxide, which affects the amount of blood flow to organs, as well as increasing angiogenesis, which is the creation of blood vessels. And so it has these effects. Essentially, it just increases blood flow to the body, except also to the brain, which is almost always pro-cognitive. And please consider subscribing if you haven't already. And there's three primary ways to impact this. There is Cialis, tadalafil, which is one of the only good things that Pfizer has ever created. A lot of people report great success with around 2.5 to 5 milligrams, microdosing it daily. If you look on Reddit, you will see anecdote after anecdote of the positive effects of this medication because of that, because it increases blood flow. It's a performance enhancer. It can temporarily increase size. As there's a lot of links in the body through different things, where if you improve heart health, you will improve your cognitive health. Where if you inhibit PDE5, you will increase your androgens, testosterone, DHT, and that's kind of what you find throughout all of these compounds here. I've taken it a few times and it was kind of subtle, except it was effective at the same time, which is kind of an oxymoron, except it was the case where I found it improved my mental clarity, my mental energy, which is really what you want to be productive in really any capacity. That being said, I think the biggest downside I did notice with it was that it just increased my libido way too much, which is way too distracting, which impacted things way too much. I had to stop taking it because of that, so I just take it infrequently when I have a test or I have to study or I have to be extra productive that day. Maybe it's contradicted because I'm young and I already have a high libido. Next, there is Viagra, which is very much the big brother to Cialis, tadalafil, as it is more popular, except it is short lasting, only around 3 to 4 hours, where Cialis is around 36, has a crazy long half-life. Viagra is more good for the acute, where Cialis is more good for the chronic. And it has similar performance enhancing effects where it works through the same mechanism, and it's kind of a legal PED. And that's what people would use it for in the past. And there's this one famous NFL player that would always take it before he played, and he noticed better performance because he just had more blood flow, so he played better. Usually dosed at 50 milligrams daily. And if you want to take a stroll down the Viagra realm of cognitive enhancement and neuroprotection, it's quite vast, surprisingly. All that for something that is cheap, accessible, and effective. It's kind of a low-hanging fruit. Personally, I've never tried it. I have dabbled with Cialis, except I've not tried this yet. Obviously, with these medications, always consult your GP, because they can have contradictions, they can have side effects. So it's better to be safe than sorry, as they say, as there are natural alternatives as well, where they are effective, except they're just less potent and they're a more holistic solution. One of them is acarian, or horny goatweed. I've talked about it at length on this channel, where it inhibits the same enzyme. So it has a lot of the positive blood flow effects, as well as it has an entourage of other effects, like it increases serotonin, GABAergic, antioxidant, all of that jazz. There's two extracts, in my opinion, that are worth it. There's a 10% and the 50%. 50% is more potent for acute use, where the 10% is better for chronic use, similar to the tadalafil and the Viagra dynamic. As well as there's black ginger, which you may not have heard before because it's relatively underground, except it's getting more common. This also inhibits PDE5, significantly, except to a weaker degree than horny goat weed, and definitely to those other medications. It's something to consider if you want to dabble, except you want to stay more on the natural side of things. These medications are fairly safe. Obviously, everything has side effects, except they're originally formulated to improve exercise capacity to people that had dysfunctions with their lungs, their heart, and with overall blood flow. So it does have a good safety profile around it, as well as they've been widely used for decades at this point. And the reason they repurposed it from treating that disease was because they just noticed throughout the trials that people were just pitching tents, if you know what I mean. And they're like, okay, you know, there's something here. At the end of the day, it is an easy, low-hanging fruit for most people that is effective, accessible, and affordable. So something to consider at the very least. If you want to know about a mineral that can reduce all-cause mortality by 50%, reduce cancer risk by 40%, and is important for over 300 coenzyme reactions, check out this video on screen.